Football violence has skyrocketed since the end of lockdown. The police blame fans fueled by alcohol and cocaine.
Class A drugs has been increasing in recent times.
But others say this is about a younger, new generation of fans emerging after COVID.
It's just exploded.
They're all let loose.
Is there something rotten at the heart of the beautiful game? Are we returning to the dark days of football violence? Or is this just a short spike after 2 seasons of lockdown?
Tonight, Crewe Alexander are playing Stockport. This fixture, we've categorised it as a high risk.
I've come to see what's going on for myself at a local derby in League 2. Officers are expecting trouble.
So the police have given me access to this briefing before tonight's game. They want to show me how they're dealing with this rise in football violence because they think there's one big problem at play and they've got new powers to tackle it.
There's a new law that came into force in November 2022. Anyone convicted of possessing or supplying Class A drugs at a match can now be given a football banning order, stopping offenders going to games for up to 10 years.
There has been a deterioration in behaviour. We've suspected as well that Class A drugs and the use has been increasing in recent times. These banning orders are a really strong tool in our armoury to make sure that those individuals don't come anywhere near football games.
It starts at the train station. As night falls and the first fans arrive, police begin searching for drugs. They later told us that the dogs made 20 hits. That means people who didn't have drugs on them but had been near those using them. Then, as fans gather at the stadium, officers arrest a man who's later charged with the possession of cocaine. And this is a scene that's being repeated at grounds all over the country. Last season there was an 8-year high in disorder, with over 2,000 arrests. A huge increase on pre-COVID times when fans were last allowed in stadiums. Throwing missiles, hate crimes, pitch invasions, all of them rose dramatically after lockdown. And this season could be even worse. Arrests have gone up another 10% compared to the first half of last season.
Seems all too familiar at football grounds throughout Europe.
Now, we certainly aren't anywhere near the levels of disorder from past decades, when football was synonymous with violent hooligans. Today, the vast majority of fans are law-abiding and it's a safe environment. But the police are concerned that this new wave of unrest is down to Class A drugs. Remember the disorder at the Euro final in Wembley back in 2021? A review into that blamed drugged-up thugs. But are drugs the only reason?
We don't see a causal link yet. What we need is more research.
Do you think the fact that there is now a banning order introduced in November will have some effect?
I suspect there won't be a huge, significant change.
Jeff Pearson has been researching fan behaviour for almost 30 years, and he says there's more to this than just drugs. It's about a change in behaviour post-pandemic.
Normally, during the course of a season, you have a steady drip, drip, drip of teenage fans who've been going to matches with their parents who start to go without their parents. During the pandemic, we didn't have that, so what we had instead was suddenly 18 months worth of teenage fans who'd been wanting to go on their own, suddenly all going. They're all going at the same time. Officers were saying to me, we don't know who these people are that are causing problems.
That's an issue for spotters before the match.
A group of Stockport youth have just been ejected from a pub called the Cheshire Inn. He's got back in through a fire escape.
They're officers who identify known troublemakers and keep tabs on them.
We're seeing the same faces that were coming with parents maybe, that were 10, 11, 12. But after the pandemic it's become, they're a couple of years older.
And you can't remember what they look like?
No, and they change.
So you're only now just getting on top of figuring out who everyone is?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And is it drugs mainly, or is it just antisocial?
It's antisocial, it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's a whole mixture. It's, is it part of society?
The game kicks off. Officials are monitoring fans from the control room. Police are scanning the crowd for any unrest. Word reaches them that fans have ripped up seats in the away end. And then, Crewe score just before half-time. In the corner of the stadium where the home and the away ends meet, fans surge towards each other. Some are just caught up in the excitement. Others appear ready for a fight. The police move more officers inside, reinforcing their presence and pushing supporters back. The more we see, the more obvious it becomes that many of these supporters at the game are teenagers or even younger.
We've had to increase our stewarding, increase our policing here.
Safety and staffing has been an issue for many clubs. They lost their regular stewards to other jobs during the pandemic, and it's only now slowly getting back to normal.
It is just like, since COVID, they're all let loose, and we have a few that we've had to put club bans on.
This Northwest derby ends in a draw, but the night isn't over. We hear rival fans are gathering on the street outside. Police rush to contain them. Eventually, officers manage to break them up into smaller groups. They disappear into the dark, and the situation is diffused.
Look, it's clear from all the stats that football disorder has gone up. But one of the things you also notice from talking to everyone is just how young some of these fans are, really young. And whether that's to do with drugs, it doesn't seem like that's the issue.
There's no suggestion these younger fans are violent. It's more about education. Police and clubs want to work with the community and schools to talk to them. It's about understanding why this is happening, especially given that this is just one side of it. A lot of the hatred and discrimination being reported right now is happening online.
I think social media is probably the biggest influence, isn't it? Because I think people appear to think they can do and say what they like on social media and then kind of disappear behind a profile that's maybe not there anymore.
Especially since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Back at the ground, they're left to pick up the pieces. 4 seats torn out from their metal frames, even more ripped apart. The seats can be replaced, but the damage points to something much deeper.
When the pandemic finished and we started getting them back, it was like somebody with a champagne bottle and they'd taken the top off, and it's just exploded.
For some who are dealing with it week in, week out, it's not just about drink or drugs.
The police actually arrested one of the youngsters and put him in the holding cell and rang for his father. His father came, and they lived in a really nice area, and he said, I can't do anything with him. The teachers can't do anything with him.
This isn't the hooliganism of the 1980s, but there are no easy solutions to deal with violent fans or troublemakers, whether they're drinking and taking drugs or they're not. The COVID pandemic and the lockdowns have cast a shadow over many parts of Britain, and football is no different.
You think it's something about wider society, not just football?
Yeah. It appears to be something wider than just football.
The question is how long that lasts, or whether this is just the new normal.